Welcome back to Diary of a Speed Reader. Today's book is Mindf*** by Christopher Wylie, and I'm going to give it 5. All this week we've been talking about data and AI, and if ex machina is the stuff of the nightmares of AI folks, this book is the nightmare of every data scientist. I mean, if you're in the field, this really is probably the most comprehensive, scary thing that could possibly happen among your colleagues. And the sad thing is this is in the nonfiction section. It's not in the fiction section. I'm going to give you 3 of my takeaways, and whether you choose to believe Christopher Wylie or not, I would recommend you at least read it. But before we get into that, I would so appreciate it if you would subscribe to my YouTube channel. I will continue my book reviews there if you're watching me on Instagram, and there's information in my bio that discusses how to get to my YouTube station. Now, let's get into what makes this book so interesting. Now, the first thing has to do with the degree to which someone can know who you are, your deeper, more personal insights from the data. And I think what this book does is that because it's written by a practitioner, doesn't just reference data on Facebook, but the idea that there's other places where you can also get data. And when combining all of that together, if you have the intent to do a particular set of things, you can get an incredibly comprehensive picture of who someone is and how they might vote in this case, or how they might view issues in another case. And that is so well described on how you would actually go about it. Now, the second thing has to do with how you would acculturate someone to extremism after identifying them from a data perspective. And in fact, if you are a data scientist, you will actually acknowledge and realize that what he's saying is true. In other words, once you've identified targets via the various algorithms that you could in fact use a number of different techniques to isolate, then the matter of just moving them slowly and continuously to a state of being numb to extremist commentary, or even potentially open to extremist commentary, all of that research is absolutely stuff that you would know if you are in the social sciences and you happen to also know about data. So super scary and intriguingly well laid out in this book. Now, the last thing that the book describes is this whole question of what types of protection do we want and what type of liberty are we willing to give up for it. And I think here, this book is an excellent example of what kinds of protections we wish we had or we might want to discuss. But it doesn't really go into and leaves very open-ended. How should we ask our government for that? What kinds of conversations ought to be in play? And I think that for the upcoming elections, as well as for anyone that is intrigued about policy, this is really something. And you know, however you may feel about the elections, however you may feel about the issues that happened, even from a state perspective, there is something that you'll want to read and really understand from this book. Now, to be fair, there's almost no way, especially if you're a data scientist and know a little bit about the technology, that you don't read this book and just are super scared. I mean, I actually thought twice about whether or not I even wanted to do a video on this book, but I do think that it's important to read it. And regardless of how you fall out on the issues, it's a very well laid out book by someone who clearly knows their craft extraordinarily well. Speed reading stats. This book was 288 pages, and it was the scariest 1 hour and 7 minutes of reading. If you'd like to learn more about speed reading, feel free to comment below. Otherwise, thank you for liking, sharing, commenting. Thank you to the New York Public Library for having these books available on e-reader. Stay healthy, and I will see you tomorrow.